we would like to welcome our candidates, Sophie Eaton, Democrat candidate for president, and Travis Franks, Republican candidate for president. My name is Mr. D. Warner, and this is
Mrs. Shermer.
And we will be your moderators for the debate today. Please know that each candidate will have a minute to respond to each question that is being asked of them. If time allows, we'll offer a rebuttal of 30 seconds for each candidate to respond to the other. We will begin today with opening statements from the candidate. Having won a coin toss backstage, Sophie will begin.
Good afternoon. I would like to start by thanking everyone for their support in this campaign. We are making great progress, and I hope to continue to gain support after today's debate.
Hello, my name is Travis Franks, and I'm the Republican nominee for President of the United States. First off, I would like to thank all of my campaign team and my media team. They really did a good job on everything. And I want to show you today that I want to make America the best it can be, but we'll do it together.
The first question is for candidate Franks, and then Ms. Eaton, you can respond. Due to the increase of mass shootings in America today, what do you believe the best solution to this violence is?
Well, I think the mass shooting things is very rare on a case of the national, like how many people own guns. And just the first thing I think of is the Sutherland Springs shooting is, yes, it was a horrible thing, and I never want anything like that to ever happen again. But it was a sick, deranged individual who we're letting speak for all of the gun owners and everyone who has a gun. And the person who stopped that mass shooting owned a gun and scared that man away. So I don't want the whole American people to suffer just because of a few people who choose to own their gun in a wrong way.
Violence is rare, it still happens, and I think we should work to prevent that by strengthening and expanding background checks to prevent gun use in the hands of criminals, terrorists, and those suffering from mental health issues.
We'll start with candidate Eaton. With ISIS as a growing threat to not only our national security, but the world as a whole, what is the role of the United States in dealing with acts of terror?
We are supportive of letting immigrants in, but we need extensive background checks, and they should be mandatory but not discriminate. And immigrants being refugees from violence in Central America, we should provide a due process and work with this region to access housing markets.
Thank you. Franks.
I think America should be on the front line to try to destroy the evil that ISIS is, and any way to do that through missiles or people on the ground, any way to get rid of ISIS, I'm 100% behind that.
Great. We're going to still stay on the topic of national security. Candidate Franks, you can respond first. Given the recent need to find homes for refugees, as a nation, how do we work to accept refugees into our country while still maintaining a safe border control?
Well, I think the first thing is immigrants built America, so I don't want to stop any legal immigrant who is truly seeking refuge from war-torn countries or just wanting a better life for themselves I don't want to stop them from coming to America because they built America. America was founded on immigrants, and so I don't want to stop anyone from doing that, but I think one way to prevent illegal immigrants from coming and people who might harm the American way of life is to do background checks. We know who you are, and we know where you're going, and we know what you're doing.
America was founded by immigrants, which is why we should be more supportive and understanding of these people. Immigrants coming to America will have extensive background checks and regular checkups on them to make sure that they're adjusting into their new life without knowingly breaking any laws.
Next question. Candidate Eaton, as the leader of our nation, how will you work with the private and public sector to grow jobs?
The solar panel motive that we're taking will create a bunch of jobs. Because the solar panel field needs repairs, but they're extremely cheap and they'll also decrease national debt.
I would actually say the opposite thing of creating jobs because I feel like it will take away jobs from the people who are doing the heating and air of who are already in that field, and it also will move more jobs to foreign countries because it's easier and cheaper to produce things over there, and so
Did you say it would move jobs to foreign countries? So we're giving jobs to foreign countries? Do we want jobs for our people?
yes, no, I do want jobs for our country, but how are we making, how are we like being able to keep those jobs in America instead of moving them to
You said that heating and electricity would be taking jobs away, but solar panels will, you can use heating with solar panels because it's still electricity, it's just a cheaper form of it.
Candidate Franks, our nation is $20.5 trillion in debt and is rapidly growing each and every day. As president, what will you do to help lower the national debt?
taking away government, like excessive government funding, because in every thing that the government gives to, there is excess. There are things that they don't use the money for, and it just stays there. So, cutting government funding and putting all the rest of that money into decreasing our national debt.
I would like to ask you a follow-up question. When you say cutting government funding, what kinds of things specifically would you look into taking the funding away?
Definitely, the first thing that comes to mind would be Planned Parenthood, because most of that's something that most people or some people they don't want their money going towards that, and they don't want their hard-earned money being taxed by the government taking towards that. And so I think that's just one of the many things that comes to mind.
Thank you. Candidate Eaton, same question for you about the $20.5 trillion debt. How will you, as president, help to lower the national debt?
I would start by taxing greenhouse gases. They're a huge contributor to global warming. Supply and implement pollution efficiency standards and increase access to renewable energy by creating good paying jobs for areas struggling with low energy poverty, providing low-income households and encourage solar, wind, and other renewable energies over more natural gas power plants. Renewable energies are much cheaper than one-time energy.
And how exactly do you see these initiatives contributing to lowering the national debt?
It's much cheaper to be using wind, solar, and other renewable energies as opposed to natural gas, because natural gas you take it and you use it and it's gone. But with solar you get it every day. The solar panels will take up energy and they're actually cheaper to use things.
I want to ask a follow-up question and then a rebuttal from candidate Franks. Would these solar panels be issued as a mandate to American citizens? Would they be a mandate to corporations, or what do you envision there?
They're not a mandate, but they're they're extremely encouraged because it will help this company save money and help reduce our national debt.
Thank you. Candidate Franks.
How will you pay for the solar panels?
They pay for themselves eventually, and during the time where we're transitioning, we have oil reservoirs where we can use oil from that temporarily until we get the solar panels.
Okay, so how will you pay for them right now? Will you add another tax, or will
Tax,
you take government funding from something else? Or?
By taxing greenhouse gases.
We'll start with candidate Eaton again. Which social issue do you think is the most pressing within our country, and what will you do to help the cause?
There's no question that LGBTQ individuals deserve the same rights as all other Americans. They deserve to marry who they love and be accepted by society just like everyone else. Today, children are still bullied in schools and communities for being LGBTQ and discriminate and deny access to these individuals. These actions are just unjust and must end.
So what will you do to help the cause?
We'll legalize all of the LGBTQ individuals.
One of the things that is most pressing right now is abortion. As an American, I cannot support abortion. Our founding fathers wrote our Constitution so that no one can be deprived of life, liberty, or property, and the unborn are no exception to that. And one of the ways I can prevent abortion is by taking money from Planned Parenthood and giving it to abortion clinics so that mothers have the option to go to an abortion clinic to see what they want to do instead of just being like, okay, I'm gonna get an abortion, but going to an abortion clinic to see both sides and choose which one they want to.
Follow up on that, in a previous answer you gave, in talking about defunding Planned Parenthood, would you defund Planned Parenthood as a whole, or defund the funds that might potentially go toward abortions and still keep the clinic as a health institution for men and women across the country?
Just money going towards abortion.
Candidate Franks, we will ask you this question. First, many Americans are not satisfied with the effectiveness of our leaders and feel politicians in Washington do not accurately represent what the American people want. How will you lead Congress to ensure Americans feel like they have a voice in their government?
Just understanding what both sides have to say and compromising on an issue, and just like hearing what someone on the Republican and someone on the Democrat side have to say, and then finding a common ground, and then passing laws through Congress which are beneficial to both sides.
Thank you. Same question. How will you work with Congress to ensure that the Americans feel like their voices are being heard?
Don't really answer that. I don't know come back to me. I don't.
Sure. Let me maybe rephrase the question. What do you think your leadership style is, and how would that work with Congress?
Compromising is definitely good. It shouldn't just be what one person wants and just acknowledging those who disagree. It should be a compromise of what both people like. And, like, you're obviously not going to be 100% happy or 100%. It should be like.
Great.
We have 2 additional questions that you 2 are not necessarily prepared for, but we're going to ask and see how you respond.
Okay, so this question comes from the NEA. Do you plan on keeping, so we'll start with you, Candidate Franks. Do you plan on keeping statewide testing in use, or would you use a different method to kind of track student growth in America?
I would keep the state testing because it will show where you are as an individual and what help you need to succeed and become the best you can be.
Because we want well-educated, passionate workers in every field, we must develop schools based on students' interests with the goal of providing access to specific schools. So each school would be specialized in career clusters like a STEM career, language arts, for example. So standardized testing would still be basically the same, except it would be tailored and modified for each school.
And then we have one last question from the press. I believe it's from the Purple Party. So this question to you, Candidate Eaton, first is, how do you think the Constitution should be interpreted? Do the founders' words mean what they say, or should it be flexible with changing circumstances? If you were to nominate a federal judge to the bench, would you want that judge to be interpreting the Constitution the way that it was written, or as times change and adapt?
As times change, because we're a growing society, we're inventing new things, we're becoming new people, and we're starting space travel even. So it really shouldn't be 100% what we were founded on. We should adapt and evolve into the best we can be.
Thank you. Same question for you. How should the Constitution be interpreted?
I think we should interpret the Constitution exactly how they meant it, understanding that we are different than we were when it was written. Because yes, we are different. There are new technologies and new things, but we also can't forget what they meant and what they wanted for our country. Because if we do, then we will be completely different than what they intended and what they wanted to see and what they fought and died for.
Okay, we will now hear closing arguments.
Everyone for your support, and for more info on our views, follow our Instagram at Sophie for President 2014.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and your commitment to America as a whole and your fellow Americans around you.